Welcome to the 1334 podcast. Today I'm joined by our, all right, see, I hit record and I just can't speak.
I know it happens to me all the time for work. I record all the time with Special Olympics for work, and it's like the run throughs are perfect, and then we hit record, and it's like five
Can't,
takes to get it perfect.
just can't do it anymore. Welcome to the 1334 podcast. Today I'm joined by RJ Nealon. He has cerebral palsy and is a competitive Jiu Jitsu athlete, ranking in the top 30s in the IBJJF, and has founded the Adaptive Jiu Jitsu Athlete. How are you today, sir?
Good. How are you?
Good. I had to say sir since you said you were in the Masters division.
I know I'm old now. I can't compete with the young guns anymore.
So how'd you get started founding the Adaptive Jiu Jitsu Athlete?
Yeah, so I got started with it just from my experience having cerebral palsy and realizing how beneficial jiu-jitsu could be for me, right? I'm a competitor through and through, but at the end of the day, it's so much more than just competing. It's my physical therapy. It's my occupational therapy. So many things help with my CP, and I see so many others with CP that can use something like jiu-jitsu, but they might not have the means to train or the financial stability to train. So I want to create a space to help other adaptive athletes get into jiu-jitsu more consistently.
Yeah. So what were some of the first steps you were taking? Were you just teaching kids, or how did it start exactly?
It started by I just threw the idea out to my coach and was like, hey, would you be open if I held an in-house adaptive workshop? Have a buddy who's a videographer who also trains with us come in, make a video, put it out on Instagram, and see what happens. So we did that, and it took off, man. Like everyone started commenting on it. Everyone was messaging me saying, man, what you're doing is awesome. This could really take off. And then in no time, some other gyms in the area was like, hey, our space is yours. Come and teach an adaptive technique, show a different perspective. And that kind of jump started the idea and started getting people on board that want to help me start this project of mine.
That's huge. So what are ways that you're helping the adaptive field right now?
So right now I am consistently traveling to different pockets of the United States to teach adaptive seminars. I've taught them throughout the DMV area. I just taught a seminar in the Outer Banks of North Carolina. And later this year, I'll be teaching a seminar out in California as well. And if just one adaptive athlete comes to those seminars, it helps. But it's more right now, my goal is to showcase a different perspective and really educate not just the students, but also the instructors that if an adaptive athlete comes in, they don't have to be nervous or scared of not being able to teach them the correct way. Show the technique, how you taught, how you learned, and the adaptive athlete will have to adapt and overcome based on their limitations. It's just creating that safe space for the athletes to feel welcome. So I do that by educating the coaches and the students first.
Have you had anyone give you any pushback? Any coaches or schools or anything?
No, I've been I've had gyms like not respond to emails. Um, but everyone I've reached out to pitch the idea, they all have the same response. Like, absolutely, man. Like, this is the most inclusive, most adaptable martial art. So if we can create a space for you to showcase that, we're gonna do it. I'm still blown away by when I went to Abu Dhabi. I got to teach at the De La Hiva Academy in
Really?
Abu Dhabi, which I did not expect them to say yes, but they responded within 5 minutes and was like, "Yeah, man, the floor is
Oh,
yours."
wow. What was that like?
It was incredible. I did not think the main De La Hiva Academy in Abu Dhabi was going to allow me to teach. I'm just a purple belt. And it was during the time when the world championships are going on. There was multiple world champion black belts on the mat. Like, it was so cool. Um, and just the feedback and the openness that I got from everyone, man, they were so welcoming. They were so encouraging and supportive of what I was doing and why I was doing it.
Man, that is awesome. What was the Abu Dhabi experience like? So, uh, talk. We can talk about your competitive jiu-jitsu really quick. You were telling me that's kind of one of the ways you're trying to advertise what you're doing is by competing and showing that even though you have limited function in your left arm, is that right?
Right on.
Right arm. Um, you were saying that like even though you're adapting different techniques, it all still works the same, and then you're still competing at a insanely high level, like for how many years now? A year, 2 years?
I've been competing for like 3, 4 years, but just recently in the last like 2 years, I've taken it to the next level.
So what's it like going all the way to Abu Dhabi uh, to compete at such a high level and showcase, what you're able to do?
Yeah, it was a dream in the making. It's been a dream of mine to do that tournament for the last 3 years. But last year, my coaches and I felt like we were ready to be competitive in the tournament and not just a name in the bracket. Um, so it was just so special because they have a platform for adaptive athletes to showcase jiu-jitsu at the highest level of the sport.
Yeah.
I'd say is arguably the second biggest tournament in the world behind the IBJJF World Championships. So to have a platform like that to compete on is just special.
Yeah.
And I want to advertise like, hey, adaptive athletes belong in a sport like this by competing because, like I said, it's the most adaptable martial art in the world.
Yeah. I mean, that's how it started. That's how Gracie, the whole Gracie family started it. They just started adapting the Japanese jiu-jitsu. So I think it's brilliant what you're doing, honestly. Almost it almost seems like a second wave, if that makes sense, or a third wave of jiu-jitsu.
Yeah,
Like start, I don't know. I feel like over the last few years, you've seen so many people come into the sport, whether it be from guys like Joe Rogan and Jocko, but I feel like now you'll start seeing um, everyone from people in their 50s and 60s starting. I know I've seen that in our gym, people in their 50s and 60s just starting, and their journey looks a little different than somebody like myself who's in my 20s. And yeah, I've got kids and limited time, but My journey looks different than his journey, and a friend of mine that's in his 20s that doesn't have kids, and all he does is work and train jujitsu. Like that's an entirely different journey as well. And I think it's cool to see that um, you can start seeing these kids and young adults and maybe people in their, you know, full adults that can say, oh, maybe jujitsu actually is for me. I've thought about it for a long time, but maybe it actually is for me. I think that's really cool what you're doing and showing it off at such a high level, saying, hey, dude, this really is possible for somebody like me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I want it to come off like organically, right? Like I don't want to like force it on people. So that's another way that I'm trying to do it. Like do it through competing. I've had so many people come up to me at tournaments across the United States and international. They've come up to me, hey, you're the one-handed bandit on Instagram. Um, like what people have come up to me and have said, like, what you're doing is incredible. Keep going. So like it's happening organically because I'm competing, and it's only making the process that much more smoother, but also just fun because I'm
Yeah.
not having to force anything.
Yeah. So what are your plans for 2025? Are you planning more seminars? Are you planning to compete more? What direction are you heading this year?
I'm planning on doing both. So last year in November, I got silver at the Abu Dhabi World Championships. So obviously, my goal this year is to go back to Abu Dhabi and get the gold medal. Um, the job's not finished. Um, I was so close, and I still feel my jujitsu is better than my opponent's. He was just stronger and had better wrestling than me. So I want to go over there and get the gold. But on top of that, I also want to do 6 to 10 adaptive jiu-jitsu seminars in different regions of the United States. Um, and that's where the Outer Banks came in, right? And that's where having one in California comes in. But I'd like to do more adaptive seminars to raise money to help fund the Adaptive Jiu Jitsu Alliance to where we can start to officially sponsor kids or adults with disabilities so they can train. If they want to compete, we can pay the registration fees. But man, every day I have a new idea of what I want to do. Like hold in-house adaptive tournaments, start really small, and maybe one day it grows to where we can have big adaptive tournaments across the country. But it's just growing the mission, growing what I'm trying to advocate for, and get it more mainstream,
Yeah,
I guess.
that's cool. I think you're taking the right steps to make it mainstream. I think that's kind of the direction for societal approval, I guess, is once things become mainstream,
Mm-hmm.
everyone starts, oh, that's just normal. You know what I mean? I think
Yep, exactly.
I think as much as we can kind of get your name out there and these competitions out, I think then your seminars, I think it'd be huge, just one more step to make it mainstream. I have a interesting question. What are your thoughts as a competitor on CJI?
Oh, I love the CJI. Um, I love the walls that they had. It was incredible. Like best jujitsu hands down, best tournament last year. And then this year they have like the team aspect.
Yeah.
Um, it's just incredible. Craig Jones is also one of my favorite human beings. He might not always be politically correct, but he has a good heart and um he does good. Um, so yeah, I love the CJI.
I tried to get someone from their team to do a podcast with me. I found out about CGI a little too late. Um, but I want to try to get somebody this year because they're donating the proceeds to nonprofits. I would love to hear about the nonprofits they're donating to and how this amount of money is like, you know, you give $1 million to some random organization in California. It's probably not going to change their lives, but you give $100,000 to a small nonprofit, you know, that's a year of funding. You know what I mean? So I would love to hear what organizations they're donating
Yeah.
to and how it's absolutely revolutionizing what they're doing. I think it's brilliant.
Yeah, Craig, the B team YouTube just posted a video of him in Peru. So last year I had an opportunity to volunteer with Guardian Jiu Jitsu Project. It's a nonprofit that offers free jiu jitsu to like underserved kids and communities. And so I got to go to Mancor, Peru, which is a small little beach town in Peru, about 2 hours outside of Lima. And Craig went there and volunteered
That's
and
cool.
like made a video for the kids. I'll have to send you it.
Yeah.
Um, but it's just like so cool to see that I was like just there volunteering my time and how much it impacted me. And then seeing how much it impacted Craig and his team to want to help out. Um, it was just so cool.
So with your fundraising, is your primary goal? I know one of the main reasons you're fundraising is the seminars. Is your primary goal to start essentially covering registration and classes for um, kids and adults with disabilities? Is that where the primary funds are going?
Yeah, that's where my head is going, just because people with intellectual disabilities or any disabilities, sometimes the financial aspect is just not the greatest, or they don't have the means to get from point A to point B. So to cut that part out would be huge. So yeah, just being able to sponsor a kid's jujitsu journey for the first year,
Oh yeah,
or if they're already training but they want to compete, like, hey, we'll take care of your competition cost. Um, that's the biggest area.
that's that's huge. I think that's really cool. Um, how many, can you talk a little bit about how you have one kid that you go and train with twice a month right now?
Yeah, so it's pretty cool how the relationship started. Um, it started through one of the pro fighters from my gym who also trains every now and then at this gym up in the Baltimore area. And one Facebook comment kind of like got me and his parents connected. And we were trying to coordinate me coming up there and training for the longest time. And then we finally did. And it's kind of crazy how similar me and their son is. Like, same CP, same functionality, same mobility, same like right side CP. It's kind of scary how similar we are with CP. Um, but it also is like really awesome that like I get to be that inspiration to help him get through some of the obstacles. Because I remember when I was his age, he's still a teenager. And I remember when I was his age, it was so frustrating having to modify everything, learning how to tie my shoes with one arm, learning how to tie my belt, right, with one arm. So to be that person for him really got me so excited to start the Adaptive Jiu Jitsu Alliance. I've always wanted to start a nonprofit, start an organization to give back, to help others. I just never did it. I would always push it off, put it off, make excuses not to do it. But working with him, competing, just seeing everyone get on board, it really just jump started that inspiration again. And that's what got me going on it and actually doing it now.
That's cool. So is he planning to compete?
He wants to compete. His dad wants to get healthy first, show him he competing, and then have him compete.
That's cool.
He's at that age now where he's in other sports too. So
Yeah.
He's a big, he plays flag football. So jiu-jitsu isn't his main sport right now. He loves football. So hopefully one day he wants to compete because I'll be there front row cheering him on.
That's cool. What areas do you need help right now? Is there some way someone can just send funds or invite you to their gym? What are ways that you need help right now?
Right now, it's just, continuing to get the message out beyond my community, right? I have a community on social media, and I have a community in the DC, Maryland, Virginia area, but it's really getting other communities outside of that on board. Obviously, I have those outlier people supporting me, but getting the entire community on board only helps grow what I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
Because obviously you need a support system to start a project like this. So just growing awareness, hosting more seminars, really opening the eyes of more instructors and students.
That's huge, dude. I'm excited. I'm excited to see what you do this year. I hope this podcast does something great where maybe you get invited to another school or two, or, just help get your name out there. I think what you're doing is not only amazing and helpful and, a godsend to people, but I think it's brilliant. I think it's another wave of jiu-jitsu that's coming out that we're kind of on the precipice of, that people may not have realized that jiu-jitsu is heading this direction. I don't know if that makes sense or not, but it does in my head.
That absolutely makes sense. I'm obviously one of the only adaptive athletes at my gym. And then there's a couple others in the area, but I don't get to compete against adaptive athletes a lot, maybe once, twice a year. And it's when I go to Abu Dhabi. So to create more opportunities to have adaptive matches, to have adapted divisions, is really my goal. it'd be awesome to get an adapted division at IBJJF events or
That'd be sweet.
grappling industries. Just have a para adapted division. So what if there's only two athletes that sign up? I usually only have two guys in my division anyways. Like, not many grown men weigh 141 pounds. So I've had some guys that work for tournaments say that. They're like, man, there's just not enough interest to like make the investment worthwhile. And I'm like, dude, I only have one dude in my traditional division.
Yeah.
Like I only have one match. Like I'm flying to Dallas, Texas for one match.
That's crazy.
So to say there's not enough interest in the adapted division, and I don't know.
I Do they realize it's not about interest though? It's it's the fact that someone would have a space. It's like, and it's really like, how different is it for you to compete against someone that has the same disability as you versus
It
sparring in
was
the gym?
it was it's really hard to explain. It was awesome, but it was very different because I'm a very inverted, upside down, weird jujitsu kind of guy.
Sound like
And
Craig.
I have adapted that style to work against able-bodied opponents and have success with it. And when I was competing against adaptive athletes, it was like a light bulb went off in my head. It was the first time in my jiu-jitsu career where I had multiple matches and I was showcasing high-level jiu-jitsu like the guys at AOJ or Atos, like hitting the barambolos in competition. Like it was the first time that I was like hitting moves like that and it being like clean. It's like, oh, like jiu-jitsu does work. Like this is cool.
What kind of challenges do you face in adapting jujitsu for individuals with like different abilities?
It's not knowing how exactly their disability affects them.
Oh, and
Um, like every person with CP has it a little bit different. So my friend's son, right? We have the same type of CP and same flexibility, mobility, but it may feel different to him than me. And it goes back, my coach has said it perfectly before. I used to always ask my coach, hey, can you help me modify this? And he eventually told me one day, he's like, man, you're going to have to adapt and modify it yourself. He was like, at the end of the day, I can show you some suggestions, but he was like, I don't know what it's like to have CP. I don't know what it's like not to be able to use my right arm. And I don't ever want to know that feeling. But he was like, you have to figure that out on your own. And I was like, you know what? You're right. And ever since that day, I've stopped asking people to help me modify things. And I just play around and experiment with it. But that's the hardest part working with other adaptive athletes is we might look the same and have the same disability, but how they're able to grip something may be completely different from myself. And having that understanding and patience is very, very key to success in teaching adaptive jiu-jitsu.
I'm legally blind, so when I take my glasses off to do jujitsu, my depth perception, everything is just so off. And one of my coaches Chris Castanetti. He's actually a Atos black belt. Um, he was we have like similar leg lengths and stuff, so he's able to help me with like my triangles and arm bars and stuff. And he was showing me some stuff that he's adapted so that it makes triangles easier and stuff. But there was one day where we were going over an Uchi, and I was like, dude, I can't see his leg. I have no idea where his leg is. Like, I see that his leg's there, but I can't figure out like how to get my leg in the right spot. And he was like, dude, you're thinking about it wrong. He said, just shoot for the window. He said, can you see the window there? I was like, well, yeah, I see where his leg's not. He said, do that. And when he said that, I was like, oh, I've been thinking about this whole trying to find where body parts are thing completely wrong. Like when we're standing up for takedowns and stuff, like I'm just trying to, when people are reaching, it's hard for me to like figure out where their hand is,
Mhm.
but I don't have to think like that anymore. I just, oh, well, I know where his elbow is. Let me grab the elbow and, go down to the hand kind of thing. And
Yeah.
it's like just adapting different techniques that are working for for me where I can't see quite right. You know what I mean? What?
Yeah, like I said, man, it's the most adaptable martial art. Like let's say if you and I, either one of us, went into a cage to do an MMA fight, like you'd probably be punching midair, not knowing where the person is in front of you, and I'd only be able to throw with one hand.
Yeah,
So it's like
exactly.
can't really adapt to that. Whereas jujitsu, it's like once we get a hold of somebody or once we have spatial awareness,
Mm-hmm.
it's a game changer. There's a guy, I don't know if you follow him on Instagram. He's called the Blind Grappler.
Yeah, dude, that guy's awesome.
Um, uh, he competes. He's from New Zealand. Uh, so really cool guy. And then there's another guy who competes pretty regularly, trains and lives in Miami. I don't know what his Instagram name is, but like he's competed against like the Meow Brothers and like some high level dudes. And it's like once he gets a hold of you, good luck.
Yeah, it's when I very, very first started within my first couple months. I was my main coach that owns the gym, Jamie Laviano. I was like, dude, I don't. I was like, I can't see. Like, I don't know where. I don't know where his body parts are. He was like, you don't have to. He said, half the time I have my eyes closed. He said, you just have to learn how to feel for it. And I think that's one of the biggest things with jujitsu that people don't realize, that it has nothing to do with seeing and being athletic and being strong or flexible, or it's all of it adapts to you. All of it works towards you. You just have to figure out how. It's all different pieces of a puzzle that we're all working to put together anyway. You know what I mean?
Yep, exactly. It's like playing chess. Everyone has a different way of playing chess or how to get from point A to point B. But I mean, your coach is right. I mean, I have black belts that will roll with their eyes closed and still submit me 10 times in a round. And I'm like, dude, this isn't fair.
It's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. But how do you design your seminars and your training programs like to accommodate for the various, you know, physical and intellectual disabilities? Like, I'm sure you're teaching a lot of non-disabled for some of these seminars, but like, are you just, do you go in and you're just like, well, I'm going to teach the arm bar? Like, how are you structuring that kind of training program?
Yeah, I teach it the same way as anyone else would teach it. I don't go in there and, take it step by step or take baby steps into the technique. I go in there and I teach it the same way if it was a traditional class, right? The only differences are if you need 2 grips for the technique, I show it with 1. And then when I'm walking around, I'll answer like specific questions, but I don't try to make it any different because I mean, people with disabilities don't want to be treated different.
Yeah.
And I want to create this safe space, this equal space that, yes, we live in a world that is built for able-bodied people, and we have to adapt and overcome every single day to that environment.
Mm-hmm.
When you walk into the martial arts gym, you are equal. The only thing that separates us is the color of the belt.
Yeah. It's
But
your skill.
once you step on the mat, you are equal.
Yep.
And you will be treated the same. So I don't try to structure it differently just because it's adaptive jiu-jitsu. And then at the end of the seminars, I always open it up for 5 to 10 minutes for a Q&A. I think that is so important to have a Q&A, have a open and safe space so people, if they've ever had a question for somebody with a disability, I'm an open book. You're not going to hurt my feelings. Like, ask me anything. And I think that's a really, really good part of the seminar, if not the best part, because a lot of people have some really good questions, but they're too afraid to ask them
Yeah.
outside of the gym or in a everyday setting.
What are some of your favorite techniques to focus on for those things for your seminars?
Yeah, so I play a lot of open guard. And I
Is
play
that
a lot of leg entanglements.
is that just a personal preference, or does that just work better for you?
A little bit of both. I so my competition coach plays a lot of open guard and like inverting barambolos. So I think because training with him so much, it kind of, translated to me.
Yeah.
I also think it looks cool. Watching guys do open guard and do the all upside down weird stuff. I just think it looks cool. But when it comes to the seminars, I always like to teach something that is competition tested, competition proven. So I usually stick to like De La Riva guard. In the Outer Banks, I showed a triangle that I didn't get the submission in Abu Dhabi, but the triangle led to me getting an advantage, which ended up being the deciding factor
Really?
on the match to get my hand. So I kind of showed it in, hey, this is how you get from open guard to lasso to shoot the triangle and played it strategically. I was like, look, you're not always going to get the submission. But if there's 30 seconds on the clock and you need an advantage or you need points, you need to go. And I was like, I shot up the triangle knowing if I didn't get it, I'd at least get an advantage. So it's, and then for Nogi, you're going to love this. I have a technique I do with my weak arm and I call it the guillotine. So I teach that a lot.
Is that from standing or open guard?
So I got it in a tournament. I'll send you the clip of it. I'll text it to you later. I got it it was like a 14-second guillotine. The guy shot a double leg, like an awful double leg. And I just like scooped my weak arm under his chin got like a high elbow guillotine, sat down and choked him out. Um, and it was on my weak side. So my friends were like, man, you got to call that the guillotine now and trademark it. Now it's like people always joke, they're like, man, you need to trademark the guillotine.
That's good. Dom Bell was talking about a guillotine. He did a seminar at our gym, and he was talking about how he does he calls it the garbage guard from that same, someone shoots like a terrible double leg, he sets up the garbage guard, which is like one leg in, one leg out, and does that same
Mm-hmm.
right arm under, uh, high elbow guillotine. So you have the guillotine with the garbage guard.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I teach that pretty often when I do no-gi seminars, or I'll teach like leg locks. I'm a big leg locker. So,
Classic purple belt.
yep, exactly.
So what are some things you would say, and like how would you educate other instructors and gyms on, you know, becoming and being more inclusive?
Invite people, right? Just having like an open door policy, like everyone is welcome. Also, if there is adaptive athletes in the area or that currently train at the gym, like be open, honest, have a conversation with them. Like ask them, what are your expectations of me as your coach? And what would you like me to see? What would you like to see me do to help you reach your goals? Like, are there certain things that we need to modify or that you need to modify? Just having that understanding, because I feel like all too often there's some coaches that just that they go, the classes are so big that they can't really have that one-on-one interaction all the time with the
Yeah.
student. But just having that like understanding that like, hey, teach the way that you're going to teach. I'm going to do the best I can to do it the way you teach. But if you look over and I'm doing it completely different, just know it's not because I'm not paying attention. It's because I physically cannot do it the way you do it. So I have to find my own way to do it.
Yeah.
But I'm going to get from point A to point B regardless. Like if the technique is a De La Riva sweep to mount, right? Um, a person might not be able to send them completely over the head, but maybe they can dump them sideways. Either way, I'm going to start in De La Riva and I'm going to end up in mount.
Yeah.
In between there, don't don't question.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah, exactly.
What would you say to somebody that has disabilities that really wants to train jujitsu, but is kind of apprehensive about it?
Oh man, I have so much to say because I have so many people that have reached out to me with this same question. I'd say give it a try. Like be open. I feel like a lot of people with disabilities are nervous that not just that they'll get hurt, which is not the case. I mean, injuries happen, but jujitsu is so beneficial in so many different ways. Like you don't have to roll hard. You can flow roll. Um, but just having that openness to like try,
Yeah.
just try. Give yourself a chance. I truly believe jujitsu, and some people push back on me for this statement, but like I don't believe jujitsu is for everyone. It's a very tough thing to do, and it's a very hard thing to do,
Yeah.
but it's designed for everyone to try.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I was saying the same thing. Like I was telling my wife, I was like, everyone needs to train jujitsu. Like what you get out of it is so unbelievably beneficial for just life in general. Not just like the health benefits of like sweating and moving but there's just so much that you can get out of it that I feel like everyone needs to try it. And she was like, it's just not for everybody. I was like, but it is. She was like, it's not because exactly what you're saying. It's hard and it's tough. And I personally feel like that's kind of why I
It's a
think,
hard thing to do.
yeah,
Yeah, it's a hard thing to do. And I your greatest so I graduated from the University of Alabama, which was a huge accomplishment of mine. And I got a driver's license, also a huge accomplishment of mine. If you knew the battles I went through with the state to let me drive, achieving my purple belt is tied, if not more meaningful to me than getting my bachelor's degree or my driver's license, because
wow,
it's truly the hardest thing I've ever done.
yeah,
And it's the only thing that I earned through hard work, dedication, blood, sweat, and tears.
yep,
Like school, I had accommodations. Driving, I drive with modifications. Like jiu-jitsu is the only thing that I don't have any government assistance. I don't have any accommodations. Like, but your greatest accomplishments come sometimes when it's the greatest struggle or when things are hard.
yeah.
Right? When things are hard, you get your greatest accomplishments out of it. You just got to stick it through.
Well, can you go over some of the things that like how has jujitsu influenced your own personal development and kind of shaped your perspective on life now? Like you've you said getting your driver's license was one of the most difficult things you've done, but now your purple belt's the exact same. Like what are ways that that purple belt itself and these last few years have completely changed the rest of your life moving forward?
There isn't a thing that I cannot do. Before, there was things that I would just, say, yeah, I can't do that. Like, and I wouldn't even try. But jiu-jitsu has shown me that, like, there truly is not a thing that I cannot do. I am a 31-year-old male with cerebral palsy who competes at the highest level in a combat sport. Like, that sentence should not make sense and should not go together, but it does. And it just is a constant reminder that, like, there is not a thing that I can't do. As long as you keep showing up and you put the effort in. And I think jiu-jitsu actually helps me with getting my driver's license, because I was so stressed out. I was so anxious, so pissed off after some of the Zoom meetings I had with like state officials or like, driving instructors saying, oh, you can't do this, oh, blah, blah, you can't do this, do that. And then I'd go to jiu-jitsu and get beat up for 2 hours. And it's like the entire day was so much better. Like all the stress and anxiety I had earlier in the day didn't exist anymore. And I think that helped me keep moving forward, because at the end of the day, I was able to cancel it out, reset,
Yeah,
go to the next day.
man, that's huge. And that same like cancel out, go to the next, like getting rid of all that stress and anxiety, it does it for everybody too. Like it's such a great outlet. I have a friend of mine I trained with, he was, he's a bow hunter. He runs, he lifts, he's ridiculously strong, super fit, but he's like, all that stuff's great. But when I train jujitsu, it's just different. And I was like, it is for me too. Like, I think everyone would say the same thing. Like, it's just a great outlet to get rid of some of that stress and anxiety or anger or whatever it is that I think. I mean, I personally believe that we as men in particular were just created for combat. Like, we were just created to fight and protect in some sort of way. And most of us just don't have a way to do that. We're either stuck behind a desk or, stuck at work for 12 hours and we're just working and going home, and we don't have an outlet for ways that we used to either cultivate the land or, protect our family. And I think jujitsu is just a great modern day middle ground for that.
Exactly. Yeah, so everyone always like says that like, man, you gotta start like looking like you're 31, you gotta start looking for your wife, man. You're getting old, blah blah blah. And I'm like, I don't know about that. But like it was funny because the the last relationship I was in, they were like, hey, you should invite your girlfriend to jujitsu. And I was like, no, that's my thing. Like jujitsu is my thing. Like I'm not gonna tell her she can't train if she comes and she's like, hey, you like, can I come to train? Can I try jujitsu? I'm not gonna say no, obviously, but I'm also not gonna invite them.
Yeah.
That is my thing. I have a coach he's been a black belt, God, for 10 years now, maybe. But he's like, yeah, my wife has her rock climbing. I have my jujitsu. We don't invite each other. The other one, he's like, we have an understanding that these things are like our things.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's what I want.
Yeah, that's cool.
For the mental part of it, but also for like physical. Like that's my time to
Yeah.
just cancel everything out and just train with the homies.
Oh, absolutely. So I want to end the podcast on a super fun light note. I've actually never done this, but I just pulled up 5 super random, like, dumb questions, and I just want to rapid fire them. I want you to answer them. I'll ask them as quick as possible, and you answer them as quick as possible. Are you ready?
Okay.
If you could only eat one food for the rest of your life, but it had to be jujitsu themed, what would it be?
Oh God. Pizza. Because I always get pizza after I compete.
I was hoping you'd say an acai bowl. I think that's a I think that's a
You
jujitsu.
know what? That's a very jujitsu thing.
What's your go-to karaoke song?
Sweet Home Alabama.
If you had to fight one historical figure in a jujitsu match, who would it be and why?
Oh God. I have no idea. Historical figure? One of the ancient goddesses.
I was gonna go George Washington. What's the most
I want to
ridiculous?
fight
You want to fight who?
one of the ancient goddesses just to show them that jujitsu is superior.
The sun goddess or something. What's the most ridiculous outfit you've ever imagined someone wearing for jujitsu?
Oh, like a one piece singlet, like a wrestler singlet, but It's like an overall, like Woody type from Toy Story.
That'd be awesome. All right, last one. If your life was ever turned into a movie, who would you want to play you? And what would the title be?
Oh, probably. We look nothing alike, but I am absolutely in love with his hair and beard. But Jason Momoa,
That'd be legit. Do you think he would do
and I
the
don't know
jiu-jitsu?
about a title.
He's actually been. I saw him in a picture with Gordon Ryan. He probably would do jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, I think he trains. A lot of them do train. I know, like Mario Lopez from Saved by the Bell is a really good purple belt.
Really?
Yeah, he's a really good purple belt. He competes at IBJJF events too,
Really?
which is kind of cool. Yeah, I've
I
seen
didn't know
him
that.
like in the bullpen competing before.
That's crazy.
Um, Tom Hardy is a blue belt.
Oh, I've seen him.
Um, Ashton Kutcher is a brown belt.
That's crazy. I saw Russell
Um,
Brand trains.
yeah, like a lot of them do. A lot of them train, which is really cool.
Yeah, they need to invite you to their gym.
I know. I need to get in touch with Ashton. So Ashton Kutcher's twin brother has cerebral palsy.
No way.
Yeah,
That's why.
yeah.
Does he train?
I don't know if he trains. I don't know. I remember somebody sending me an interview. It was Ashton. How do you pronounce his wife's name? Mila Kunis. Mila
Yeah.
Kunis. Um, and his brother, and they were talking about how they're twins, how he has CP. Um, and somebody sent it to me, and I was like, I had no idea. Like, I wish I had a way to like get in touch with Ashton and his team
Yeah.
and
That'd
just
be
like
awesome.
chat. Like he does jujitsu, I do jujitsu. Maybe his twin brother does jujitsu. But like I don't know how I even start to get in touch with Ashton Kutcher.
Need to set up a bat signal for him.
I need to go to the gym he trains at and just
Yeah,
in the
just
middle of
wait.
bowling.
Tap
Just
on the
wait.
floor. Just go and sit out front and wait for a while till he shows up.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for your time today. Greatly appreciate it. I hope this gets you some more seminars. Send this to a few gyms and be like, hey man, we're trying to do some great things for um the adaptive field.
Yeah, I hope so too. I have set the goal of doing 6 to 10 seminars this year, and I've already gotten one done. So
That's
I want to
awesome.
keep that momentum going,
Yeah.
and just keep opening people's eyes, changing perspectives, creating a safe space for adaptive athletes.
And we're at 1334, we are planning to film your Abu Dhabi as a fundraiser to help you continue to raise funds, create a bunch of content from it. Um, Soon we're going to start announcing a few different ways that we're raising money this year to hopefully start covering that cost without having to be like a couple months out and be still trying to fundraise and raise the money to get the travel
Yeah,
expenses and stuff. Because everything we do for organizations, especially like what we're going to do for your organization, is going to be completely free to you guys. We just have to raise the money to basically cover the travel and all the um, all the skills and everything else will. And if we end up hiring any extra editors or shooters or anything, we cover all that. So um, super excited to do some more work with you.
awesome. Yeah, I'm super excited. I'm so glad that we got connected.
Yeah, me too. I'm stoked, dude. Well, it was,
Super random too. Super
yeah,
random how we got connected.
a friend of mine who moved here for a few years. We met him at the gym, jiu-jitsu, trained together, and he just he sent in our jiu-jitsu Facebook chat your link to the rash guard you were selling. He was like, um, a guy I know up here is raising money if you guys want to buy a rash guard. I was like, what's he raising money for? He was like, well, he runs a nonprofit and this and this and this. I was like, no freaking way, dude. I was like, this is so sick. And he was like, yeah, let me see if I can get you guys connected. I think he stopped at the gym to talk to you one day.
Yeah, he trains with us now.
Yeah,
So I see him almost every week, but the first time we were only like he had no idea that I had CP.
really.
And afterwards, I went up to him and Owen. Yeah, I went up to him and Owen and started talking to him. And he introduced Owen. He said he had CP, and I was like, I have CP. And he was like, he's like, I didn't put the two and two together, but he was like, like doing the roll, it started clicking your body movement and stuff. He was like, I could kind of tell,
Yeah.
but he was like, man, that's so cool what you're doing, and that you out here not making any excuses.
Yep. They're some of the greatest people. Owen is hilarious. I don't know if you've got to talk to Owen much.
Yeah, he is.
He's so funny, dude. Our last roll together before they left, Owen stuck his fist in my neck and pushed his whole body in. He was like, tap, tap. I was like, bro, quit. He stuck his one arm behind my neck and stuck his other fist in my throat. And he was like, he's trying to kill me. I'm like, dude, quit. It's so
That's
good.
funny.
It's crazy you guys got connected like that. And Mike is
Yeah.
good. Mike is so good.
Yeah.
That's one of the strongest guys I've ever met.
Yeah, he's really strong. He's really nice to me though when we bowl.
Dude, he's not nice to me. Not at all.
Yeah, he can tell I'm a little guy.
Our last roll together, I was stuck under him. My ear got folded between my head and the mat, and he just started pushing me across the mat.
Oh God.
That dude's a freak. Well, I've got to get going. I'll try and get this piece together and post it hopefully this weekend, and I'll shoot you some links to it.
Awesome, man. Really excited.
Yeah, me too. Thanks, dude.